Hello. Yes, I still am uh, not going to do regular uh, content uh, uh, because again what has been the most important event in for my entire of my entire lifetime, and probably, but again, things are happening, but so far the most important event of our in the world, and to reshape the world, it's still going on. And again, I don't want to give bad karma. And considering that for my entire lifetime, the history of man has been a big slide down, uh, I have become a bit uh, superstitious. So I do not want, even if it's just a superstition, I don't want to give any bad karma uh, in this particular conflict. Uh, but and I'm sorry, I didn't. I would have loved to have given my New Year's words a few days ago, but didn't have time, uh, and oh dear. Um, um, Most importantly, I wouldn't I would just like to say that it's 2026, and I wouldn't, even though it would be good manners. I like people, and I like to be well mannered. It would be good manners to say Happy New Year to everyone. But unfortunately, I don't think there is anything happy about this year or the previous year, or many other years. So actually, as a respect to history, I will not say Happy New Year. I will just say New Year. Um, but certainly, I would have loved to have made a video before the wheels, and again, this is the US expression, before the wheels completely came off the bus in in the United States. Um, because again, making predictions would have been, and I don't mean that I want to make predictions. I am an amateur. I'm not an expert. Uh, and yeah, again, very important to say, because we don't have freedom of speech anymore, to say that I'm not a journalist. No matter, we have very few journalists in the Western world at the moment, but like all the people, for example, in Finland, who call themselves professional journalists, just like they are not journalists, neither am I. Uh, um, I'm not yet a researcher or an academic. Um, of course, I've studied a lot during my lifetime, but I haven't yet studied uh, um, any area that would allow me to present myself as any sort of an expert. So, of course, I'm, again, and since we do not have freedom of speech anymore in the Western world, I need to say that this is just my opinion. I am just an ordinary citizen expressing my opinions. I am not, this is not a news um, program. This is not a, I'm not trying, I'm not an influencer. Uh, no use attacking me. Um, anyway, but just as a fun game, as an ordinary citizen who just for some reason, I don't know, seems to be better informed than most. and again, than anyone I know in Finland. Uh, you know, it's still nice to just make predictions, even though um, they, you shouldn't. But it's the child in one. It would have been lovely because again, I I I would have said, uh, mm, had I been able to make predictions, that the wheels are going to come off. And now, of course, I can easily predict that the shite is about to hit the fan in in most of the world, especially the Western world. And it is interesting. Some and again, I'm actually speaking from a very small minority in the world, and I guess that's why I like to do this, even though no one is ever going to see this, which of course is good because that means no one's coming after me because I am not influential in any way. Lovely. Again, I in a way have a freedom of speech because nobody knows about me. It's lovely. Uh, uh, Wonderful feeling of freedom. Uh, Again, something that the Europeans for some reason do not understand. I don't know. It's unbelievable, but I guess it's because I have been raised by American films. Uh, I I have a definite idea of what freedom is, and yeah, Europeans in general have no. It's unbelievable that they have no feeling of freedom, no idea of what freedom is. Anyway, uh, um, mm, the very small, I mean, just a tiny minority of the Western world who have any idea of what is going on. And so I like to try, I like to feel that I belong to that very small minority. Judging from the amount of people I see in YouTube and so on. I guess uh, the people who know anything about anything. It may be in the tens of thousands in the entire Western population of the Western world. It's a it's a terrifying thought, but as far as I know, uh, and certainly in Finland, I don't know anyone, not one. But that again, I don't. I'm not really. Social media is not my forte, and so it's possibly just that I am misinformed, uninformed. Uh, but truly, for example, in Finland, I feel totally and utterly alone. So it's nice to feel to be a part at least of a you know of some sort of a community. So that's why I pretty much I am commenting, even though nobody sees and nobody knows. Um, but again, in that very small circle where anyone even speaks any sort of a truth or anything even close to any sort of a realism, they've been talking about Caligula. Um, to And of course it's nice that during this for as long as I know again the people who understand anything about anything or ever even who would discuss even anything that even resembling some sort of truth or reality have talked about the empire and the fall of the empire. But I need to say at this point that or actually talking about the Roman Empire, when they talk about the Roman Republic, uh, I don't know if you look at it. Actually, it the even by standards of that, or putting it into perspective, the time that Rome actually was a republic was extremely short, or any sort of a republic. Very quickly, what is called a republic uh, was actually an oligarchy, uh, absolutely a pure oligarchy, which, considering what the United States and now all of us, their vassals, led by quite, or like Finland, quite obvious foreign assets, U.S. assets. Uh, what we are. We are, for quite a while, we have been a pure and absolute oligarchy. Uh, and emperors, I guess, you could say that the very first time when the Congress in the United States became absolutely useless, which is a long time ago, uh, we already had emperors, and we passed Caligula a long time ago. And if one would have to say something, I guess we're somewhere around Septimus Severus at the moment, and we are slowly moving to Caracalla. And unfortunately, as one can say, the empire, it is declining, and it is in a dreadful state, and has been for a long time. And again, oligarchy is not actually, if you ask from the Greek philosophers, of the old, oligarchy is a very bad thing, and that we've had for a long time. Uh, but uh, before the absolute fall, again, if you're thinking of history at any, there's unfortunately a long, very hard, very scary way to go. A long, long, horrible way to go before the end, so to speak. Mm, uh, what can I say? I'm absolutely shocked that gambling is going on. No, no. Um, to discover how total the U.S. control of of my world, the Western world, is, and again, the total capture of all of the Western governments, and which are just full of almost CIA agents. Um, the utter uselessness of the rest of the Western world. Um, Claiming values, and again, that's the idea. That's what one might point out of the Roman Empire, and of any, actually, the whole of history, that we are a bit, what it has always been about. It's exactly the same class warfare, and everything ends up in an oligarchy. And all the time you have populations that are totally propagandized, and totally, again, sent to fight each other instead of fighting the people at the top, instead of fighting the oligarchs. Uh, it's a sad repetition, a cycle that it's absolutely dreadful. And one has to point out that I continuously, again, it was funny. Somebody again has said, that the United States, that they are the most propagandized nation on earth. that is laughable. I cannot tell you how propagandized most Europeans are. And I'm really, quite literally, I am putting Finland actually on the very top of that list. As far as I know, it is still is that Finnish people are the most trustful of the mainstream media, of them, which is pure and utter propaganda. Absolute, complete, total propaganda. Nothing to do with any sort of a reality. So I would say you actually have the figures to prove not only, the stupidity of what the Finnish people do and say. They don't get to vote for most things, but whenever they get to vote, the total, it is absolutely amazing. Our president can fly to the United States and be buddy with Donny Luferface Drumpf. But if he don't, even if he gets to meet Drumpf, he is gonna meet Lindsey Graham. And if he doesn't get to meet Drumpf, he'll meet Lindsey Graham. And our yellow papers can actually have large pictures and headlines saying how our president Alexander Stubb, how he thanked his senator friend. And there he is, hugging and smiling with Lindsey Graham. And again, I talk to Finnish people, other Finnish people who are, again, should be the best educated people in the world, and who are totally and utterly middle class. They make excellent money. They have everything that one person should have, that a person should have in the world. And I can ask them, do you know who Lindsey Graham is? They have absolutely no idea. Do you know Lindsey Graham? Who is that? To a man, to a woman, every one of them. And this should be easy. This should be something that easy to understand. That we do not have a democracy in the Western world, or most of us. We have a representative democracy. And the idea of a representative democracy is that the voters have enough information, have the actual information to make well-informed decisions when they vote. They have to be aware of they have to have some sort of facts, some sort of any kind of information and understanding, or otherwise it does not work. And if it does not work, it is not a representative democracy. And at that point, it is not a democracy. And what can I say? Finnish people have, and again, they should be, that's another thing, when you talk about education, it's so easy to speak of the best educated people in the world and so on. It is not enough that you take everyone, force everyone to go to school. The school actually has to teach you something. You actually have to learn something important. It is not, it's just, it's just a word education at that point. It is not an actual concept at that point. If you don't actually learn anything useful, not to mention thinking at school. So that doesn't, but I'll make a big video about Finland when I can actually dare to start commenting again, if it's any more possible. At this rate, it actually may not be possible in for example, in Europe, to actually freely speak, comment, do commentary anymore. Let's see. But now, to the actual point, which is and I have to say this: the since we are all totally and utterly enslaved by the United States in the Western world, our only hope would be the people of the United States. They actually, you know, they have uh, many of the people who um, uh, who you know, the founding fathers, the people who the famous founding fathers, they actually, again, for their times, they actually were very clever people, and the basis really is excellent. And though it's now totally under attack, uh, the United States still has some democracy, element of democracy left, and it is the only hope for us all in the Western world. Um, what we would need would be the voters in the United States doing something, actually, yeah, you know, voting again with some sort of information and somehow correct, you know, in some sensible way. And that is the first thing to, unfortunately, to say. I can see almost none of it. Um, Mamdani wasn't, you know, he's an improvement, you know, a vast improvement of, could we say, the traitor to the left, Obama. But again, Obama, just like old Donny Blueface, actually himself didn't promise anything. You know, again, people put, uh, you know, placed ideas on him that he actually didn't have. But, you know, and then, of course, Bernie Sanders. And to Sanders, uh, I watched, or actually, I scrolled through his video. I think it was his latest video. I just scrolled through and I went to, does he say anything about the kidnapping of a sovereign leader of a sovereign country? And he said, cruel dictator or something, Maduro. Okay, I just stopped watching the video there, but, you know, bad take, Bernie. Bad take. That's all I can say. So Mamdani is an improvement on you know, these previous figures, but, you know, he is nowhere near there. I have to say, I again, it has been quite obvious that you shouldn't trust anything or anyone. But unfortunately, as I'm trying to say, that's actually our only hope at the moment. I think Kwashma Shavant is the real thing. Again, if I would have to make a bet, but I guess she is very far from, for example, you know, being a senator, even a senator, not to mention a president. But I think she does seem to be the real thing. It would be interesting to see Jose Vega, you know, to get to Congress. That would be interesting. Uh, you know, so you know, and there seem to be leftist candidates here and there, and and if I understand, some in some, you know, smaller uh, assemblies, there, you know, there are good people, but overall, you know, what you actually have is the modern Gestapo shooting people on the street, and, you know, and a lady shouting, "What the fuck did you do? What the fuck did you do?" I'm sorry, if you had paid any attention what is happening in your own country, you wouldn't need to ask. So actually, the situation in the United States, where the war has finally come home, is actually dreadful. So we truly are in the Roman Empire at the moment. We truly are there, and we are all, again, vassal countries. If you look at the map of the Roman Empire, there are vassal states around it, and and rest of the Western world, we are those, and we are totally and utterly dependent, and all our politicians are in the pocket of the military-industrial complex. So this is again taking much longer, but that's what always happens to me. Everything is much longer than I wanted. But 2026, now the crap is gonna hit the fan. That's an easy prediction to make. The clues, you really, when again, take the Trump administration. When psychopaths tell you what they are going to do, believe them. So they have pretty much set up their, in their last statements, they pretty much told you what they are going to do. And it is easy to say that Europe is not going to be able to do anything. And anyone should understand that the European, again, where I am, that our economy is in the gutter. So, of course, when the crap is going to hit the fan, we are going to be totally and utterly helpless with that. And we are in the empire. We have no laws or rules or even decent behavior left. Oh, and again, when it comes to all that, I have to say again, for posterity, again, Nicolas Maduro is actually has been one of my favorite world leaders for some time. I think he's a lovely man, and I can say, again, just I mean, I'm just an ordinary person. Again, it's wonderful that I'm not I'm not a leader of any country. I'm not anyone's expert. Nobody's paying me. I'm a nobody. And I can say for absolute certainty that, that he's not a drug lord, and he's not a dictator, and he was totally democratically elected. That actually, far from belonging to any sort of a court, he has been one of the best, leaders of any country for a long time. And I just, again, it's funny that you can be this wise. It feels wonderful to be so much smarter than, for example, anyone else in Finland. I can say this without any reservations. There's nothing wrong with Nicolas Maduro. Absolutely nothing. He's perfect. We should all be so lucky that we would have someone like him. So I had to just say, just for to get the posthumous glory, what history is one day gonna tell about, but again, in the same way, there's no greater hero in freedom of speech than Julian Assange. Julian Assange and some sort of a crime has nothing, have nothing to do with each other. It's the absolute opposite. It's so funny. It's so interesting to be on the right side of history, in the middle of complete and utter, again, fall of the Roman Empire. But anyway, now this year is when it really is gonna start to hurt. That's the prediction to make here. So the United States is gonna do both internally, but then worldwide, is going to do horrible things together with two other countries, let's say two and a half, which again I'm not going to endanger my life, so you either know or you don't. Uh, they're going to do horrible things. Uh, and of course, the European Union can soon be considered, the United States of vassals, uh, uh, which in a way are rubber stamping and do taking part in all these, are responsible for of all of these horrible things and genocides. Uh, but anyway, this year they are going to do horrible things, and and there's nothing that anyone else except the people, actual voters of the United States, can or could do anything about it. There are a few important adversaries and actual, so to speak, independent nations in the world. How they react, or let's say they are going to react to these things, and then we throw the dice and see what happens. But what is most important is that, again, ordinary Europeans or smarter Europeans, there's nothing we are going to be able to do, and there's going to be a lot of pain. Um, anything good? No, not really. Um, again, it's been said that in the Roman Empire, which it is important to say includes its vassals, there was just a time when it was not fun to be alive. There are better periods and worse periods. Um, and there are some of us very lucky, uh, who actually can exist uh, in relative happiness, but not many. Um, and my small message, um, for everyone is, anyone who ever sees this is hang on, uh, good luck, uh, and uh, and and that there is no, unfortunately, there never has been any miracle solution. The only solution that you ever can have, no matter how bad the situation is that the people, and in this case, most important in our situation would be the people of the United States, to get wise. Um, and of course, and again, as said, we seem to be very, very, very far from that. But no miracle, and that's the problem. No matter, and again, this is from history. It doesn't matter how bad things get. There is no miracle that comes out from outside to help. Things get worse and 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 worse until finally people uh, wake up. Uh, it's horrible. Of course, in this situation, we have, you know, we actually have our modern oligarchy, which is, the again, the ancient Roman oligarchies, actually, it puts it to shame. We have the greatest oligarchy in the history of the world, and they are, of course, trying to bring, this Uh, a situation where people don't, it doesn't matter if the people revolt or if they, actually wise up. It's too late. They can be all taken care of. But that's another story. Uh, Again, that's all I can say. It's going to be a horrible year, and and I want to be part of those very few who know how bad it is. I feel you. I love you, and in a sense, I love the ordinary person. Again, I wish the best of luck to everyone. Bye bye.